Hello, friends. Welcome to the 25th monthly lecture organized by the Kizuna India Japan Study Forum. The Kizuna India Japan Study Forum was launched in September 2022 by the Mombusho Scholars Association of India, which is an association formed by scholars who spent a year or so doing research in Japan. The objectives of the forum are to explore and document the lesser known or under researched aspects of India-Japan historical and cultural interactions and disseminate the findings through lectures, seminars, conferences, and publications. The forum has held two international conferences in November 2018 and February 2023, and the papers presented in the conference are now published in the form of book. The first book is Narratives of India, a lesser known in historical and cultural interactions. And the second book is Geographies of Exchange between India and Japan. And the third conference, the next conference is the third conference, is going to be held on March 6th, 7th, 8th. And the title is Lived Seasons and Intercultural Encounters at the India International Center, New Delhi. And it will be in hybrid mode. And Madhurima, I feel happy to inform the viewers that she'll be also one of the presenters. There is no registration fee, but you must register yourself, those who are attending in person, because we have to make appropriate seating arrangements. The Kizuna Forum also holds lectures on monthly basis. Today's talk by Arindam Goswami is the 25th held under Kizuna lecture series, and he will be speaking on familiar yet foreign, India, Japan, and the tourist imagination. Let me welcome and introduce the speaker. Arindam Goswami is a doctoral candidate at the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at IIT Gandhinagar, Gujarat. His research interests include studies of travel narratives and gender studies. He has presented papers at various national and international conferences and published a book review in Sangalp, Journey of Literary and Cultural Inquiry, as well as a feature article in the Outlook India magazine. Welcome Arindam Goswami to Kizuna Forum. And let me welcome and introduce the chair, Dr. Madhurima Mukhopadhyay, an assistant professor, Amity Institute of English Studies and Research, Amity University, Kolkata. Her research interests range from women's travel writings in the colonial period in Bengal to issues of marriage and domestic violence in globalized India. Her publications include several articles in reputed journals and also a book co-authored by her. The title is The Violent Domestic Law, Its Practice and the Strategies of Survival. It was published in New Delhi, 2022. And let me welcome and introduce the discussant. Swati, will you switch on your camera?
Yes, I hope you can see me.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Hello, Professor Sushila. Nice to meet you.
Dr. Swati Krishna is Assistant Professor of English at IIT Bhubaneswar. Her research interests include contemporary American literature, women's literature, road narratives, and gender studies. Her publications include articles in several internationally reputed journals, and she has co-edited a volume entitled Gendered Violence in Public Spaces, Women's Narratives of Travel in Neoliberal India, and it was published by Lexington Books, USA. So welcome all the three-star speakers, chair, and the discussant. So I now request Arindam, I request the chair to take over.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for your kind words and for the introduction. It is a great honor for me to be chairing this session with two really very accomplished speakers. I would request Arindam to start with his talk, to just introduce his talk, Familiar Yet Foreign, India, Japan, and the Tourist Imagination. The talk examines the emergence of Japan as one of the most popular international tourist destinations among Indians. This growing fascination can largely be attributed to the representation of Japan as an exotic and culturally distinct space, drawing attention to the history of Indian travel to Japan. The talk will demonstrate how this subtle process of othering plays a significant role in the portrayal of the country as a desirable and consumable tourist space for Indian travelers. So over to you, Arindam. I think after his talk, Swati would probably discuss the talk and then we can open the forum for questions.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for this kind invitation. And it's an also honor for me to present this topic in this renowned platform. I'm sharing my screen. Ma'am, can you please allow me to share the screen? I'm not allowed to share the screen.
Manoj sir? Manoj sir? Manoj sir, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Please allow Arindam.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Can you do it, Arindam?
No, ma'am. Still, it's not allowing me.
Give me minutes. Give me
Okay,
minutes.
okay. Now it's visible. Ma'am, is it visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. Just one second. Okay. So the title of the talk is Familiar Yet Foreign, India, Japan, and the Tourist Imagination. As already explained the objective of the talk by ma'am, I am not going to elaborate it. So I will just start with the introduction. Now, India has a rich and diverse repertoire of travel writing. These writings often encompass numerous travelers' experience of traveling across the country as well as outside the country. Despite having a rich corpus, the genre continues to exist at the margin of critical study. Also, there exist critical works like Home and Harem, Nation, Gender, Empire, and the Cultures of Travel by Indirpal Grewal, Travels to Europe, Self and Others in Bengali Travel Narratives by Simantani Sen, and Indian Travel Writing in the Age of Empire, 1830 to 1940 by P.K. Nair. Their purview is restricted to the travel writings of colonial period, One of the most important works that study the scenario of Indian travel writing is a book named Indian Travel Narratives, a collection of essays edited by Professor Somdatta Mondal, which encapsulates critical writings of critics like Shobhana Banerjee, Robin Paul, Jayati Gupta, Somdatta Mondal, and many others who have started to write critically about Indian travel writing. The book's aim is, as narrated by Professor Mandal, to explore the rich heritage of a country the size of a continent. The book is divided in three sections consisting of various articles in Indian travel writing. However, as is evident from the discussion, the book particularly focuses on travel writing on India and England. In fact, most of the critical works that study Indian travel writing mostly focuses on this east-west axis. However, if we take a look at the history of Indian travel writing, many Indians also travel to various Asian countries, including Japan. Japan was popular international tourist. In fact, in the early 1970s, when travel writing study was slowly emerging, Japan features as one of the most popular tourist destinations among the Western travelers. In the book, Tourist with Typewriters, the authors Patrick Holland and Graham Hogan have specified four distinct zones of travel across the world: the tropical zone, which refers to Congo and Amazon, the Oriental zone, which refers to Japan, the exotic zone or the South Seas, and the liminal zone that refers to Arctic. However, in Western imagination, Japan has always been portrayed as a land of romance and eroticism. In contrast to Western imagination, the Indian imagination has portrayed Japan as a place of superior culture. Swami Vivekananda's letter is a prolific example of such portrayal. In fact, it can be said that one of the earliest documented links between India, specifically Bengal and Japan, is the letter Swami Vivekananda wrote from Yokohama on 10th of July 1893 to Alasinga Perumal of Madras. At the time, he was traveling to attend the World's Parliament of Religions in Chicago. From Yokohama, he crossed the Pacific and reached Vancouver in British Columbia and then continued by train to his ultimate destination, Chicago. Japan became an important stop on his journey to the United States. He had departed from Bombay on 31st May 1893 aboard the SS Peninsular. His route included Colombo, Penang, Singapore, and Hong Kong. From there, he made a visit to Kanto before returning to continue by sea to Nagasaki and Kobe in Japan. Thereafter, he traveled overland through several major cities, including Yokohama, Osaka, Kyoto, and Tokyo. In his writing, Vivekananda comments on Japan's scenic landscape as well as the orderliness and precision that characterized everyday life in the country. He writes, I quote, the Japanese are one of the cleanliest peoples on earth. Everything is neat and tidy. Their streets are nearly all broad, straight, and regularly paved. The little houses are cage-like, and the pine-covered evergreen little hills form the background of almost every town and village. The short-statued, fair-skinned, quaintly dressed Japanese, their movements, attitudes, gesture, everything is picturesque. Japan is the land of the picturesque. Almost every house has a garden at the back, very nicely laid out, according to Japanese fashion, with small shrubs, grass plots, small artificial water, and small stone bridges. Commenting on nature of the Japanese people, Vivekananda further writes, the Japanese seem now to have fully awakened themselves to the necessity of the present times. They have now a thoroughly organized army equipped with guns, which one of their own officers has invented and which is said to be second to none. Then they are continually increasing their navy. I have seen a tunnel nearly a mile long, bored by a Japanese engineer. The much the match factories are simply a sight to see, and they are bent upon making everything they want in their own country. This appreciation for Japanese people and culture appeared as a major theme in many of the travel narratives written later about Japan. To cite another instance, Sharad Chandra Das's speech can be mentioned. Sharat Chandra Das traveled to Japan in 1915, following his earlier association with the Buddhist monk and explorer Akai Kawaguchi. Kawaguchi had studied Tibetan under Sharat Chandra's guidance and had been in contact with him in Darjeeling during 1897. During his visit to Japan, Sharat Chandra spoke at a gathering of the Indo-Japanese Association in Tokyo on 21st of November 1950, where he remarked, I quote, not one in 100,000 Indians has yet met with a Japanese merchant, traveler, or scholar. There is no record of even a single Japanese lady having ever visited India. It is therefore necessary that the Indian ladies and gentlemen come here to see for themselves Japanese home life. Here they will see how artlessly modest the fair sex is, and how collected in mind and manner the men of all classes generally are. During the early 20th century, more travelogues were published about Japan. Among the lesser known writers, as pointed out by Professor Mondal, there are two Oriya travelogues, namely Mahesh Chandra Roy's Japan Prabhashika Patra, or Letters of a Visitor to Japan, published in 1902, and Tokyo to Calcutta, that is, from Tokyo to Calcutta, published in 1903. Among the Bengali travelogues, there are Kailash Chandra Bharatkar's Japan Jatra, that is, Journey to Japan, and Japanata Rajvangsha, that is, Japan and her royal dynasty, both published in 1911. Then there was another Bengali travel narrative called Japan, written by Suresh Chandra Bandyopadhyay, which was published from Calcutta in 1910. The same year saw the publication of another book called Japan Probas, that is, Living in Japan, by another Bengali gentleman called Manmatnath Ghosh, who had traveled to Japan in 1906. Later in 1915, he also published another book entitled Shupta Japan. Rabindranath Tagore's 1916 trip to Japan was published as Japan Jatri in 1919. All these travel narratives presented different facets of Japan to the readers in Bengal. Among the women travelers who traveled to Japan were Hariprabha Takeda, Abala Bose, Saroj Nalini Datta, Charubala Mitra, and Santa Devi, to name only a few. Saroj Nalini Datta traveled to Japan in 1920. Apart from describing the life and culture of Japan, a major part of her travelogue deals with the Japanese education system for women. As reflected by the writing of the education system in Japan was not gender biased. Girls in Japan had equal rights to education as boys. The girls' school in Japan reminded her of the abysmal condition of the girls' school in India. She writes, I quote, after having tea, we were accompanied to some of the classroom. Around 750 girls are enrolled in the school. Most come from outside to attend school, and only 30 to 40 students are boarders. The English language instructor, Miss Sukamoto, explained to us in English everything about the school. We inspected a few classes, then we went into another room to see a drill class in progress. That was the school gymnasium, a massive room. An instructor was training 200 girls. It was very attractive and enjoyable to watch. Again, when I remembered the abysmal condition of the girls' school back in our country, I was mentally aggrieved. End quote. Like Saroj Nalini Devi, a major part of Charubala Mitra's, Abala Bose, and Santa Devi's travelogues too focus on women's education in Japan. Santa Devi, in her travelogue, also speaks about the women's healthcare system in Japan. While staying in Japan, she visited a women's medical college and a maternity hospital and talked about how women engage themselves in different healthcare services. Hariprabha Takeda's travelogue, Bongo Mohila Japan Jatra, stands out from the rest of the travelogue as it describes a Bengali's journey to Japan, but also because of Hariprabha's position as a member of a Japanese family, as her husband was Japanese by birth. Her book contains a rich description of the Japanese family culture and custom. She writes, I quote, courtesy and gratitude are intrinsic to their speech. If they are shown an iota of kindness, they acknowledged it by bowing their heads in gratitude. Their conversational mode expressed their own humbleness and the extreme respect rendered to others. While bidding goodbye and seeing them off, the host made sure to invite the visitor to come again. End quote. Thus, as is evident from the above discussion, the writing of these travelers in the writing of these travelers, Japan has always been portrayed as a place of superior and distinct cultural places, and this portrayal contributes to the othering of the culture. If we go by the basic definition of travel writing, that is, a travel writing is a recorded documentation of travel writers' encounter with difference and otherness. By representing the Japan in this manner, all these travel writers are participating in what contemporary travel writing criticism often describes as othering. Although widely used, the term carries two related but distinct meanings. In its broader and less charged sense, othering refers to the way one cultural group recognizes and emphasizes difference between itself and another community. In its more forceful sense, however, the term points to the rhetorical and ideological strategies through which one culture portrays another as not merely different but subordinate or lesser. In this broader understanding, nearly all travel narratives could be said to involve a form of othering since they depend on presenting accounts of people and places perceived as unfamiliar or outside the reader's experience. What remains open to debate, however, is whether travel writing necessarily participate in the stronger version of othering, where difference is translated into hierarchy and cultural superiority. As is evident from the above discussion of the travelogues, all these travel narratives mentioned before is steeped with reference to otherness, but it is not the discourse of inferior others but of superior other that dominate these travel writings. Instead of representing Japan as inferior others, which is evident in the Western representation of Japan at that time, this narrative focuses on the representation of Japanese community as having a higher moral and aesthetic standard exemplified in the discussion of their cultural, society, and education system. This portrayal of positive this portrayal of positive other has contributed to our increased touristic mobility between the two countries. Now, apart from the print media, the digital media too is abound in various tourist blogs about Japan. Writing about the importance of tourist blog, Betsy A. Pudinger opines that travel blog is the equivalent of personal online diaries. Explaining the effect of blogs on today's traveling, Nguyen further states that, I quote, the genre of blogs mixes recognizable commodified imagery and personal stories and snapshots to establish a blog both as a globally recognizable commercial effort and as a more personal site of travel discourse, end quote. If we take a look at the recent travel blogs, the most frequented tourist spots of Japan include Tokyo Tower, Ueno Zoo, Ueno Park, Tokyo National Museum, Hiroshima, Mount Fuji, to name only a few. One such very popular tourist blog is Travel with Kousik. During his travel across Japan, Kousik visited places like Kasukabe, Mount Fuji, Hiroshima, to name only a few. Now, Kousik's portrayal of her travel through Japan resonates with John Urie's notion of consuming places, discussed in his book Consuming Places. Referring to how place is consumed, Urie mentions four distinct ways of consumption. First, places are increasingly being restructured as centers for consumption, as providing the context within which goods and services are compared, evaluated, purchased, and used. Second, places themselves are, in a sense, consumed, particularly visually. Third, places can be literally consumed. What people take to be significant about a place, that is industry, history, buildings, or literature or environment, is over the time depleted, devoured, or exhausted by use. Fourth, it is possible for localites to consume one's identity so that such places become almost literally all consuming places. Cossacks can be said to emerge as a consumer with reference to the first two aspects mentioned by Uvi. The first level of consumption in her case pans out through the detailed description he provides of his accommodation in the Ota city and how initially he faces some hindrances as some of the instruction of the electric equipments in the homestay were written in Japanese. The role of Koushik as a consumer is further apparent in her description of her acquisition of local products, as especially a packets of choco chips during his visit to the Shinchan Museum in the town Kasukabe. Now, anyone who is familiar with this famous children's show Shinchan knows that choco chips is a Shinchan's favorite snacks, and many episodes of the series veers around these snacks. The second level of consumption in Mitra Ghosh's case is manifested through the detailed visual descriptions he provides in the narrative of the various places he visits, which corners the notion of visual consumption. For example, I have taken some snapshots from Kaushik's travel blog. Now, this place is the Flame of Peace, which is in Hiroshima. The second is the Children Peace Monument. So, Kaushik's travel blog is abound with description of many such places that are popular tourist blog. Now, in contrast to print media, which generally gives us a very rich description of these places through words, metaphors, or various other rhetorical speech, in a blog, we can directly visualize these places. Uh, the second level of consumption in Kaushika's case is manifested through this detailed visual description he provides in a narrative of the various places he visits, which connotes the notion of visual consumption. The elements of visual consumption is highlighted in the narrative through his focus on the natural beauty of several places he visits. For instance, the description of Mount Fuji that Kaushik captured through the lens. So here is a small video clips that Kaushik captures during his visit to Mount Fuji. Is the video visible? Is it running?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. So now, now Uri elaborates his concept of visual consumption with reference to what he terms as the tourist gaze. In his book, The Tourist Gaze, he argues that tourist gaze is directed to features of landscape and townscape which separate them off from everyday experience. Such aspects are viewed because they are taken to be in some sense out of the ordinary. Uri mentions different ways in which the division between the ordinary and out of the ordinary can be established. These include seeing a unique object. He argues there is seeing a unique object such as the Eiffel Tower, the Empire State Building, Buckingham Palace, the Grand Canyon, or even the very spot in Dallas where President Kennedy was shot. These are absolutely distinct objects to be gazed upon, which everyone knows about. They are famous for being famous. For example, similarly, in Kaushik's tourist blog, we can see the different images of different places. For example, this Children Peace Museum and the Flame of Peace are some of the popular tourist destinations. Now, it is observed that Kaushik too refers to this unique object like this peace symbol of Hiroshima, the volcanic landscape surrounding a Mount Fuji, which describes his travel through Japan. According to Uri, now another way of differentiating the out of ordinary from the ordinary is by seeing a particular signs. He claims, I quote, then there is the seeing of particular sign, such as the typical English village, the typical American skyscraper, the typical German beer garden, the typical French chateau, and so on. This mode of gazing shows how tourists read the landscape for signifiers of certain pre-established notion or sign derived from various discourse of travel and tourism. Koushik's visit to Shibuya in Japan, reputed for becoming one of the busiest crossing, exemplifies this process. Koushik shows that how Shibuya's crossing is one of the busiest crossing in the world. Thus, Shibuya emerges as out of the ordinary for Kaushik owing to its already established reputation. Thus, as is evident, Whether it's culture or natural beauty, Japan has always been portrayed as one of the most popular international tourist destinations among Indians. This growing fascination can largely be attributed to the representation of Japan as an exotic and culturally distinct space. The subtle process of othering, which is evident in the above discussion, thus plays a significant role in the portrayal of the country as a desirable and consumable tourist space for Indian travelers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a very interesting reading of, travelogues and how you have looked at blogs. I would now request Dr. Swati to give her, discussion on this paper, on this presentation.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible and also visible.
All right. Thank you, Arindam. It was a different talk in the sense of how you view othering. So I'll
Yes.
just summarize what you have discussed and then may pose some questions. So you have started with the history of travels to Japan. So you brought in Swami Vivekananda's travels and Sharat Chandra Das and how West and East views Japanese and Japanese culture and people. And interestingly, what I noticed was that when women travelers are mentioned, so you mentioned Saroj Nalini
Hmm.
Dutt and Shanda Devi.
Hmm.
Interestingly, they were talking more of the gender equality, right?
Yes.
Education as well as in healthcare. So while the male travelers, because I'm also a gender studies expert, so this difference is what caught my eye first, is that while male travelers were talking about this artless or artful women and men, they were more concerned with the women travelers were more concerned with the education of girls and the healthcare women's services, which was interesting. And also the idea of, then you talked about the superior othering, and as well as you ended with John Urie's concept of consuming places and Kaushik's blog. Um, while in our critical studies, in critical and literary studies, we use othering with a negative connotation almost always. So if you are using for in a positive sense, this is my question to you. Do you have a theoretical backing, because we in our studies we need a proper theoretical background? Is it something you are coming about with by yourself, or do you have a solid critical backing to your claim which would be questioned? Yes,
Okay.
you can answer. Yes.
Okay, ma'am. So, while initially when I started the study of travel writing, mostly I came across like how othering is the term othering has always been used to refer to some inferior culture. But othering can also be used in the sense of how one culture differentiates itself from another, right? So, in Carl Thompson's book Travel Writing, he was speaking about the noble savage, actually the savage who are not inferior, but they have some good qualities. So actually my idea of superior others come from this idea of noble savage. I mean, it's a kind of inference on that idea. Like, first of all, Japanese culture is very different from our culture, so that is the first level of othering. Now all these people, whether it's Horiprabha Takeda or Saroj Nalini Datta, even Swami Vivekananda, they are speaking about the higher, like the improvement of the culture. And I think it's Sharat Chandra Das, he's also speaking about, like, he's like inspiring the students to visit Japan to learn about their culture. So Japan has always been portrayed as, first of all, it's an other culture. Second, it's kind of superior culture. So there is no sense of inferiority. So my idea of superior other is a kind of like inference from Carl Thompson's idea of noble savage.
Superior culture from the subjective perception of the travelers, right?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
So yes, that's what you're claiming.
Yes.
You're not directly claiming that it has a superior culture.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm asking.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it is
So, okay,
from,
ma'am.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so it's from the traveler's perspective, because traveling is a very subjective experience, and each traveler's experience is mandates to be different from other travelers. For example, I myself have been to Japan on some conference, and I have my own experiences. So there are certain things I like, and there are certain other things that I don't like also. So it's a very subjective experience. So the traveler that I have referred here, it's from their perspective that this notion of superior others that I am applying. It's not from my perspective, but from the traveler's subjective perspective.
So yes, in case you would wish to develop it into a paper in
Yes.
future, maybe some theoretical backing would help with. I think while it is a very interesting idea, yes. Other than that, with the blog that you were talking about and the visual representation, how did you connect with the visual conception, which was not very, clear?
I didn't get your question. Can you please?
The visual consumption and the
Okay.
pictures that
Okay.
Kaushik uses
So,
in his blog.
So when the notion of visual consumption is actually provided by John Lee, where he said that the visual consumption happens through the rich visual description of the places that the traveler provides. Now, it would be very much popular if I can use if there is subtitles or the video that I uploaded, if it comes with the audio, but for some reason the audio I cannot play it, because there is this rich description of that volcanic terrain of Mount Fuji. Also, in other there is like total 10 episodes of this blog that covers the major part of the Japan, where Kaushik has explained in details the culture, the scenic beauty of Japan. So it's like he's consuming the places visually. So two levels of consumption that is happening here. First of all, like one is the material consumption, where he is going, he's staying, he's consuming the food, he is purchasing certain things. So one is the material consumption, and the other is the visual consumption. That is when you are consuming places. Basically, you are consuming the aesthetics of the places through your eyes, and that is what I mean by visual consumption. Uh,
All
Am I
right.
able to clarify it, or?
I think so. But
Okay.
have you heard of dark tourism?
Yes, dark tourism, it would be applicable when I was speaking about this Hiroshima and Nagasaki,
Yes,
especially
yes.
the places that is kind of like has a haunted past. Haunted not in the sense of spectrality or spookiness, but has some traumatic past. For example, if we are speaking in the context of Japan, both Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they can be mentioned as dark tourism. And it is because of their traumatic past or the traumatic history, people particularly visit those places. So it is the third point of consumption. Like people thinks that their history is the significant part. Like if you are visiting Tokyo has this very rich cultural and scenic beauty. Mount Fuji is famous for its scenic beauty, but Hiroshima and Nagasaki, both of these places are famous for their historical past, as it is related to the World War II and the atomic bomb explosion. So it is this history, for this historical past, that people are visiting these places. They are consuming that history, which is also evident in the like. There are also these war memorials in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and Kaushik also visit those places. Which I cannot show because of the paucity of time, because the blogs are very lengthy and it's like that. So yeah, so I think it's also a part of dark tourism, his visit to these particular two places.
And also nowadays there are certain virtual ways in which you can conduct dark tourism, right?
Yes.
Through museums to provide ways or ER or these artificial ways that you virtual ways you can consume dark tourist places. But do you think that since you were talking about consumption, dark tourism is about consuming places of or pain or consuming places of historical atrocities? So, what do you think about the ethical part of it? Though it was not directly related, but since you're talking about consumption, I thought of asking the question.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm.
For this one, I need some time to think, because there should be an ethical part, and it's a kind of like I don't know how should I answer this question,
Maybe
because
talk about Kaushik's journey to Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
okay, so Kaushik particularly visit to these places, and he refers to the history. He also shows this. There is particular building. I think its name is something Bomb Tower, like very near where the bomb got exploded and everything. I think as it's related to the personal history of Japan, I think there should be some kind of permission kind of thing before portraying, because it's also deals with the not only obviously it is a collective memory of the people, the collective memory of suffering, but it also comes with certain personal memories, like people who have personally suffered. So there is a ethical dimension to this tourism, but I cannot see any kind of ethical dilemma in Kaushik's part. I mean, he's a very his blog is a very commercializing blog, and sometimes if you ask for my personal opinion, I don't know whether I should say this like that, but sometimes people, but it's kind of like they sell this history for like inviting more tourists, because these days it has also, because these collective memories, they have also been commercialized for inviting more tourists, because people consume these things more and they are also interested in these things these days, how it affects the other people. So I think, yeah, that's my answer with the ethical part. Though I'm not sure about, because I need some time. It's a very interesting question, and
So
I
I just have another question regarding your PhD work. Is it related to travel writing in
yes.
Japan? Yeah.
No, actually, my thesis entirely is based on Indian travel writing. That
Indian
is,
travel.
Indians traveling within India. Because
All
when I
right.
was started working, I see that the notion of home travel that hasn't received much critical attention, especially the book that was published after 2000.
All
So my
right.
work is completely based on that area.
Okay. Thank you, Arindam. Thank you,
Thank you.
Madhurima. Yes, that's it from us. Thank you.
Okay, so I will now open the floor for questions. Though I also have a question for you, Arindam. Maybe I'll come to that later. If there's any question from the audience.
Ma'am, can I stop sharing the screen?
I think so, because now you'll get questions only. So you can stop sharing your presentation. Yes, there's one person who's raised hand. Yes, please go on.
Yes, my name is Ishiro Azuma.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I have a question. When I have foreign guests in Japan,
Yes.
well, it's often somewhat tricky to decide where to take them. Yes, and well, especially with many of the Indian people, the restriction, the barrier, sometimes seems to be rather high. For instance, let's see, gastronomy. That's a very important part of tourism. But as you know very well, Indians have a lot of issues about various, especially non-vegetarian cuisines in Japan. Well, Indians particularly so compared to many of the other foreigners. Also, I love taking people to my favorite hot springs. I think Indian people have a strong aversion to nakedness, and this comes rather difficult as well. Well, I can tell you about other examples as well. But do you think things will be going towards the direction that people get more used to or accommodating in various exotic aspects of Japan, and we can have more fun together? What are the future prospects?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. Yes, I think the way the tourism industry is growing these days, and people are more prone to new adventure and new experience. I think there are certain possibilities that people will be opening up for these diverse and various kind of experiences. I think that can happen in a near future, because nowadays they are always looking for something extraordinary, something fun. So I think there is a possibility. Uh, just to give a personal example, when I first traveled to Japan, I also felt very shy when I joined my friends in the hot springs. So like the first day, cannot join. The
Mhm.
second day, I joined ultimately. So it
Yeah.
took me a day to overcome the shyness and to integrate it into that particular culture. So I think it would take some time, but it would happen.
Mhm. Yes, well, I just like to be optimistic about.
Yes, same here.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, there's another question from Ankona B. Can you just go ahead with your question? Yeah.
Hello,
Hello.
I'm Ankona from West Bengal.
Yes.
Thank you for the presentation and thank you for everyone who has been here. I had kind of three questions. So if you could just briefly address them. Why do you think the Bengali travelers portrayed Japan as superior? So was it also a way of exoticizing the country and its people, just as the Western people had done it for Japan? That is one question or maybe one and a half question. And the other is that also, can you equate or compare digital media from the age of 21st century globalization with print media at a time when the Swadeshi movement were on the horizon or had already happened, and its after effects were permeating the entire Bengali society, and when travel writings had entirely different agendas. So my question is that can you compare these two with each other, and what kind of way would you look at it? Thank
Okay,
you.
so go back to your first question. Your first question was like the nature, like why these Bengali men, they were exoticizing this Japanese culture, right? If I am correct.
Do you agree that they are exoticizing or not?
Yeah, to some extent, I agree that they are exoticizing the Japanese culture, obviously, because they represent it as a superior other. So I agree to you that to a certain extent, they're exoticizing it, but not like the Western imagination, because Western imagination has always portrayed Japan as a place of romanticism and eroticism. On the other aspect, it's basically like learning from a superior culture, because all these writers, they are talking about these education system and healthcare system and how Indian society can learn from them. Both in Swami Vivekananda's later, Sharachandra Das's later, even in Hariprabha Takeda or Saroj Nalini Datto, it's basically like a comparison of the both culture and how one culture can learn from the other culture. Because India and Japan both shares a close tie uh, through this cultural exchange. That is one thing. And also like about this women education, because when these women were traveling, women education in Bengal, like that
Mm.
was not very much kind of like a thing, because I think it's only in the 19th, late 18th or around 19th century, I think the women education started to increase. So when these travelers travel to Japan, they see that there is no gender biasness in the education system. So something, because like Hariprabha Trakeda, not Hariprabha, originally Datta, she speaks about this abysmal condition of Indian education system, especially when it comes to women's education. So I think from that point of view, it's basically like learning from the other culture. I cannot say it's not completely exoticizing, but it's just like learning from the other culture. That is one thing. The second thing, like how I can equate both the things. See, now uh, both are the medium of narrative, whether it's a 18th century writing or 20th century writings, both are the means of narrative. And if we go by the basic definition of narrative, there is a narrator who is narrating some incidents. So basically, my point of comparison is that narrative stance, whether it's in the medium can be different, but in both the cases, there is a narrator. There are some instances, specifically, if we see, is like whether it's a book or whether it's a blog, the information that this traveler gathers, they are like huge amount of information. They then sit and carefully extract those information and they coherently weave them together in the form of a narrative. It is very much true when it comes to this digital blog. It is very much true when it comes to the writing. So from the narrative point of view, it can be compared. But again, as the time period is different, there are certain differences that we have to keep in mind when you would be speaking about these vast historical timelines, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
There are no more questions. Arindam, if I just want to ask you one
Yeah.
question, that is, you were speaking about the colonial travelers, and then
Yes.
you went to the blogs, right? So, how have you linked them? That is my question. Like, what happens in between the many decades that are there? How is this progress traced in your work or paper?
Okay, so actually, my plan is to, so like when this comes to this colonial enterprise, the critiques and both the writings, they are mostly focused on this east-west axis. So there hasn't been much critical work on these Indian Japan, that cultural exchange. Though there in recent time there were some works. For example, Professor Shamdatta Mandal has written about it. Professor Jayati Gupta has written about it. There are many travelers who are traveling to Japan. Some of their writings has been published, many of their writing hasn't been published, because for the travel writers is more or less like they are more focused on how they are traveling to the West and
Right.
how the West is being represented. So this area needs much more research, and I believe that there may be some more documents. Maybe I need to do a more in-depth archival research to see if there exists, what kind of document exists, like specifically in the post-independence era, because there is a huge gap between 1950s and during this. In recent time, there is a travel book I came across when I was looking for materials for this talk, Pallavi Ayers. I think the book's name is Orienting or something, I forget the name. But before that, I did not come across many materials or the many books that talks about their travel to Japan. For example, the very prominent travel writers, even Navanita Devshen or Sunil Gangopadhyay, they mostly spoke about their travels to Europe and the America and the other European countries. So I think this area needs much more in-depth research, and I also couldn't find like much more material during this post 1950s era. So I have to shift to the blogs, because I was following the lecture series and I saw that the lecture has already happened on this topic. So I just shifted to the blog. And also, like in recent times, because writing a book and publishing it is a kind of like time taking task. So people are more focused on these blog and blog narratives these days. So I thought to focus it on the blog.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it was a very, very interesting talk, and the way you placed it, like linking colonial travel and then the blogs, and also wonderful discussions and very interesting points initiated by Dr. Swati. So, thank you, both of you, for the wonderful presentation and the discussion. I think I'll now ask Dr. Sushila to end with her remarks.
Thank you, Madhurima. I think Mitsuko-san, she had raised her hand. Mitsuko-san?
Yes, thank you. I think my question is not so important, so I no put my hands down. But I just want to add one thing, if if time allows. I think these days the Indian travelers increase tremendously, probably because of the financial improvement, and and then also Japanese government issues the visa much easier for Indian people. So that makes, traffic more. At the same time, I think the impact of anime, many Indian tourists who I receive and then took them around, they always talk about Japanese anime. So that impact is a quite big impact to increase the travelers. I just wonder, maybe the demography-wise, Indian travelers, in the colonial time, the demography is more toward the Bengalis, and then, wealthy and then aged. And I just wonder, what is the demography of recent Indian travelers? I assume probably the age is a little younger, or business people, or that is something I feel very curious about. Thank you.
So, yeah. Yes, ma'am. As you have pointed out, I think it's more the younger generation that is traveling to Japan these days, and obviously the anime is one of the major reason, because the anime culture that is slowly growing in India. Because when Kaushik starts his travelogue, the blog that I was referring, his first visit was the city of Kasukabe. Because Kasukabe was the Shinchan city, and he visited these. The entire blog is about visiting the Shinchan's museum and various figurines and collecting various anime figurines. And then there is the second episode is about I think it's Shinjuku visiting Doraemon's hometown. So second thing, the third episode he speaks about Shibuya, and Shibuya has been featured very recently in a very famous anime episode. It's called Jujutsu Kaisen, and there is this entire arc. It's called Shibuya Incident, and there is this famous announcement that happens in the metro. The next stoppage is Shibuya, and then there happens this entire massacre in the Shibuya station. So now, and even the Shibuya station, when the anime episode was featured, the Shibuya station was completely decorated with these anime figurines and according to the anime series. And people from India were traveling, they are making blogs about their experience in the Shibuya station. So yeah, this one of the major reason is this growing anime culture that is inspiring people to travel more to the Japan.
Yeah, and
Thank
also,
you.
if I may add, there's a huge influx of IT people who are,
Yes.
settling all across the world and also Japan. And they're also blogging their daily life, how they travel, how they cook, what they eat, how to make living easy. So that is also a huge, new kind of blog that is coming up.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you. Which is a very good sign, and then I'm very hopeful for
Yeah.
more traffic.
More traffic, yes.
Any other question? So let me wrap up. It was indeed great listening to the three young scholars. This is the first time we are having, all young scholars. Arindam, Madhurima, and Swati, and all of them bound by common scholarly interest in travel narratives and gender studies. Actually, at that time, for most Indian travelers, especially Bengalis, destination Japan held a special appeal, partly stimulated after Swami Vivekananda went and brought back very nice feedback about the Japanese, their culture and everything. And then the direct interaction between Okakura Tenshin and the Indians. And then, of course, Tagore's visits and Shanti Niketan becoming a haven for the Japanese philosophers, artists, and thinkers. And another reason which I think encouraged the Bengalis was the direct shipping linkages between Calcutta and Kobe. So that provided them facilities and proximity. In fact, these shipping companies, they even came out with packages for both the Japanese and the Indian tourists. So the traffic became very frequent. And this also encouraged tourism. And Japan also represented a non-Western model for the Indian reformers. Because at that time, we were all struggling with our freedom, liberation issues and everything. So we were looking for a model which is not Western. And Japan, especially after the Russo-Japanese, after its victory over Russia in 1905, it presented a model. And the speed with which Japan modernized itself and preserved its independence. So that provided an inspiration. So, and most of these Bengali women who went, like Abla Bose, she was the wife of Jagdish Chandra Bose. So many of them were highly educated. So that is why in their travelogues also you will find that they are looking at Japanese women's education, the reforms, etc., etc. And they wanted to bring back those ideas in Japan, in India, so that they could also carry out reforms in Bengal and then rest of India. So it was really a pleasure listening to all of you, meeting all of you, and I hope we'll continue taking interest in Kizuna activities, Kizuna lectures, and you would also participate more often. I would also like to thank all the other participants for their interest in Kizuna activities and joining us via Zoom. Professor Yoshiro Azuma, he is always there. Mitsuko Takahashi-san, she is also there. And I see many others also who have been regularly attending our Kizuna lectures. Hope to see you again. And let me tell you that all the lectures are available on YouTube, Kizuna India Japan Forum and the MOSAI website. So those who have missed, you can see the lectures. And I'm sorry I can't give you the next date for the lecture, because in March we have this conference and it's in hybrid mode. So, and Arindam, there are 7-8 speakers. We have a session where there are 7-8 speakers talking only about the Bengali travel narratives. So Professor Shomdatta Mandal is also there, Madhurima is also there. So you must attend. And there are also some speakers on Odia travelogue, on Telugu travelogues. So, you must attend Parsi travelogues. So you must attend if you can, I mean, at least, online. So thank you so much. Really, I enjoyed listening to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.